Hello world, this is the Podlair team doing what we do with the Truthfire Journal, covering major stories going on in the news, particularly demographic bubbles. I am Naji Coach, a level 53 Podlair practitioner, and with me I have Nijai Bruno, a level 8 Podlair practitioner. And we're going to be working particularly on the bubbles of modeling and music. All right, continuing on, let's just jump into it. All right, let me know if you see this.
Yep.
Cool. All right, first up, have the odds and even, and you pick evens. Genai Bambi Northwood Blythe. That's a name right there. I wonder how many models change their name. And that could very well be her real name. I was just wondering if that's like common.
Yeah, it's a good question. Genai Grace Bowl.
We have this kind of exotic one.
Ooh.
Evi Celia Balaco, a Miss Universe winner.
Like Sarah Palin and that news anchor you mentioned.
Yeah, Gretchen Carlson.
Yeah.
It's not common, but there are a handful of them.
Genai Maria Borges.
Headphones on. All right. Next up, 5. Tiny Maria Carla Bonscono. And she had a kind of an interesting look that for some reason I spent a little time making sure she wasn't an IG. There's something about her. She's got a bit, like on the one on the right, the way she's looking, doesn't look as dancey as some of the other ones. Left picture looks more, kind of classic tower look, the receptive eyes with a longer face. But she strikes a lot of these kind of poses too, using, I guess, a bit more of a Vi stare.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, that's not supposed to happen. Yours?
Ziny Line Brems.
Is that how you say that? I'm not.
I don't know. Are these my requests?
What's that for models?
Yeah.
No, not yet. I don't know. I've just been going through kind of an order.
Yeah.
We have a ton of
I didn't think so. No, I didn't think so. This one's a little bit of a Carla Delevingne.
Yep, it is.
Maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah, a little bit softer in the lips, but I see what you're saying. All right, Ziny Isani Brito. You can really see it there. She's got a bit of wider face, but that's a lot of sheer cheeks. That's a long sheer expanse, very localized. And here, even when she's smiling, you see it, very localized. And then you've got that Zez Alpha double plate, plated cheeks, and also the plated lip plate, I guess.
Oh yeah, you were talking about that with Mitchell.
All right, it's for you.
Genai Madison Brown.
Picture on the left, she's riffing me on someone. It keeps tickling me, but I'm not sure who it is.
Yeah.
Maybe an actress or a singer or something. I'm not sure. But that look she's giving.
Yeah, a lot of the Genai sort of riff off each other, and I'm trying to sort of constellate it. I've only got a few down.
Right.
But,
yeah, we see the G is not moving a ton in the mouth area. Like it's not a big thing, but it goes up her face. You see like the eyes heavily toned. Just giving that side eye.
Yeah, I mean the Genai compared to the IG, just they seem a lot more similar. There's a lot more similarities. It feels like it's just easier to find, even though I can't pin it down quite yet. Like the Naiji, often when I find a riff of Naiji, they're very different physically. It's just like they strike the same laugh or the same stare. With the Jinai, it's a little easier. I'm seeing a lot more commonalities, I think.
Interesting. So you're
Um,
saying it's easier to see commonalities with Gina than Naiji? Is that what you're saying?
yes. I mean, for one, it may be self-selected. I mean, a lot of the Jinai, both males and females, they have a sort of a riff, especially the males. There's like a riff of Jinai that's very, very popular in TV, especially in TV. Um, and so they're sort of like the
Yeah.
leading man Jinai, and so that's very common. But the females as well, there's like there's certain riffs that just like they're not perfect, like they're not good enough for me to post on the forum, but they're like it's there, you can see it. And whereas the Naiji, I often find like there's so much emphasis on like being unique and different,
Yeah.
even if they look sort of alike, they just style themselves and behave so differently. It doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
It's not.
The emphasis is on the originality, and then Ni Alpha shape shifting. It's a lot of different forms they'll take in order to achieve that originality.
Right. Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah, comparing them to the Jinai and even the Vaiji. I mean, the Vaiji obviously have a lot of classic poses, even if they're not perfect, a perfect match.
Mhm.
They have a similar style, similar like energy. So it's a lot easier to see the connections.
Yeah, I find the same thing actually also for me with the adaptives of the ad ROMs that like for example in music, I find it easier to note the Vijay. There's a ton of them, and there's a lot of like riffs, but there's a lot of similarities to them. Whereas with the Nijai, first of all, they don't tend to be as big into pop music, so they tend to be in these smaller niches. And in those niches, they've like metamorphed into something. And some of them look very feral, other of them look very like sensitive poets, and they look quite different. I think there's more difference in their looks and what they're going for than among the more pop-heavy Vijay. So if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I've noticed that too, but I find Nijai a little bit easier to riff just because there isn't that emphasis on like shape shifting just for the sake of it. It's
Right.
more of like a reaction to the environment.
Gotcha.
So it's like a lower priority, it feels like. Like you see on my riffs, like in the threads, like there's a ton of Nijai there. They're pretty clean, pretty solid riffs.
Yeah.
Most of the Naiji riffs that I find, they're like Al Pacino and Craig Ferguson. Like things that you wouldn't see necessarily, but when they laugh, they look almost exactly the same. When they big smile, Al Pacino and Craig Ferguson look almost exactly the same, but otherwise they look completely different. And that's the kind of riff I've been finding with Naiji a lot. Like very situational, very like fleeting in the moment kind of thing.
It's true.
Whereas Nijai, I don't actually find I have that problem. There's a lot of Nijai, especially males, like the more academic or like film director types. They just have a pretty like typical Nijai style, and I can find usually really good connections of two people that look very much alike. And I don't get that with Naiji so much. Very rare with Naiji.
Naji are very true. Well, the Naji on purpose don't want to be tracked. That's like one of their biggest things. They want to watch, but you can't watch us. And we'd like to be able to do that if at certain times in front of you. Like to be directly in front of you with you looking at us, but you still don't see us. Like we're talking and doing stuff and even quite interesting looking, but it's so you can't see us. It's hard to explain. But yeah, it's important. All right. Next up is Ziny Cindy Bruno. Pretty classic,
Yeah, I can see that.
but good to see because there is some ethnic trends. And in the modeling, for example, all three of them, the Ziny first by a lot, and then the Jinai, and then by back behind that is the Naiji. Those three show quite a bit in like the fashion modeling. But I noticed that there's a tendency more of having Ziny, even more than there are already a bunch of them, when it comes to like these more Germanic or Nordic countries. Whereas, say, those of African ancestry, they tend to be Jinai more. The Ziny, like, Iman and this person, Cindy Bruna, they're not as common. There's still a bunch of just because there's a lot of Ziny, but proportionally, there aren't as many African, say, Ziny female models compared to the rest of the Ziny female models. as when you compare it to like how many African Geni female models there are compared to the total amount of Geni females. That's actually a large segment. So not quite sure why that is. If they're like shooting for a certain kind of vision and then they suit these visions, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know what the subtle. I like to talk to someone from this field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. I've been looking at the Xeni females as well, looking for rifts, and I found that they have like a really good cross section of all the races. It's the one Mojo that I found has, I think, the section of all the races. Like, there's a ton of Asians, a ton of African Americans, a ton of Latino, and a ton of whites. Like, it's all across.
Yeah.
So I wonder why that is, and I'm definitely going to be investigating.
I think there's some reason popped in mind because you also have that with, say, the Nigez.
Right, of course. The
but that's because there's so many of them, so many fields. But as far from separate than just being popular like arts and performance stuff, I think the Xeni show up a lot in, for example, leadership positions, high leadership positions in, say, different countries and CEOs, and those can be companies or countries from anywhere in the world. And the Xeni tend to rise to the top there quite a bit. So that might be a reason for the diversity right there, or at least one reason.
Yeah, a lot of them were definitely politicians. Like, that was definitely a trend there. A lot of the diversity came from politicians and CEOs.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to see. I'd really like to talk to like a fashion person, in particular one who like knows how they like select things for shows, and also a casting director for movies and TVs. I'd like to see what would be their kind of layman's terminology for, like you're talking about, that kind of riff of Geni that you see a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What would they call that? Do you know what I mean? Because clearly it's being cast over and over and over again. It's like, we're like, what words would you use to describe those? I mean, it may be kind of like a casting director's Mojo reading language. You know what I mean? Just like for these fashion shows, they must want certain models for certain things, and it must relate, I think, in some way to the ethnicity shifting on the Mojos. And like you said, all three show up, and all kinds of ethnicities. Actually, modeling is quite diverse that way. But I did notice it skews a little more Xeni when you go Northern European, and then it skews more Geni when you go African.
Right, absolutely. I've noticed that too. They probably sort of talk around it. They try to, like, they say like full lips or like exotic, you know,
Right.
versus like I guess you'd characterize the Xeni as like impassive or
right. But on that, for example, like Iman is Xeni, and she had a very standout career as a fashion model, and so it must not equal that, you know, maybe because she did not have, say, the fullness in the face, and including the different parts of the face, you know, the lips and so forth, that a Geni is going to, even though she comes from, say, an African part of the world. You know what I mean? And on the other hand, but it's rare. It's rarer that they would that is considered a good, not say good, but like that's one that's promoted, is to have a more, you know, impassive, finer featured African. You know what I mean? As compared to, for example, like something I find very attractive. There's like quite a few in mixed martial arts and acting and so forth, Geni females. And they are very beautiful and you know, very captivating and so forth. So I'm like, wow, there's a lot of attractive Asian Geni females, but I don't see that happening as much in the modeling. You know what I mean? I wonder what kind of mental arithmetic is coming. You know what I mean? Because some kind of math is going on here with these trends. I don't quite know why that would be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to like actors, you know, actors of color, for example, when like there was this whole thing with the Oscars this year, and you know, they are very vocal about the fact that like a lot of the times the parts that they're up for, they'll say things that are kind of coded,
right,
racially coded, like sassy or like things like that. Like I saw the Jivi lady. I think I forget her name, but it was a Jivi that's often being cast in these parts, and she's like, you know, if I get one more script that says sassy, loud, whatever,
Right.
it's like I'm gonna wring my hands around the neck of whoever wrote that, you know. And it's like, yeah, I mean that's just how, you know, that's how these parts are cast a lot. Like being half Asian, like I noticed that too. It's like a lot of, you know, the Asian parts for males. Actually, a lot of them are Nijai, but they're not, you know, leading man kind of Nijai. They're like
supporting.
They're supporting or like comic relief kind of roles,
Right.
and like I don't know, it is like a coded way that they talk about it. They don't really talk about it in the open,
Right.
but it's all like subtext. It's all, you know, so you probably tease it out of whoever you're talking to, but they're not just gonna give it to you on a platter, say like,
right. No, I didn't think they would, but I figured if I could get a bunch of them to kind of just use their native industry language, if you had like hundreds of those kinds of like interviews, it'd be fascinating to kind of like see what words they use to equate. Obviously, it's going to be like, say, the racial profiling angle, which is not good. But what I was going for would be a positive, which is what words would they use in general, like out of like hundreds of people interviewed in that field, when they were describing the Jinai versus Naiji versus Zaini models? Like what, you know what I mean? What adjectives did they use?
yeah, well, that's the thing, is like it is in a way intrinsically tied to the racial thing.
It is, I know.
But it's not necessarily. I mean, it can be bad if you look at it in a certain way, but it, in a way, it's interesting because it is mojo reading. Like they're basically doing mojo reading.
Right.
They just don't know what it is, and they're doing it for wrong reasons. But that's what it is. Like it's
and I'll even say that some of them are doing it for wrong reasons, maybe even a majority. But I think at least some of them, my spirits say it is an art form, and I think there are some people who treat it as a high art. In which case, I'll say they're using mojo reading for a very specific reason. Because like casting directors who maybe are like in love with this movie and they want to find the best cast ever, so they're like going to temple on this movie. So it's a higher calling, but it's a very specific use of it. Just like, you know, you could use mojo reading to increase your ability to detect lies. And maybe you're on some important case to save the world. You need to tell, you know, to tell apart liars from truth tellers, and that can be another specialized use. So that makes me too, like lie detectors, like human lie detectors, what they do a lot with reading micro expressions. Very interesting to hear what they're reading, because they're reading mojo, but they're not actually understanding the programming underneath everything, and they're searching a highly selective search engine, a search engine to look for, you know, dishonesty. But still, they are definitely reading, you know what I mean? Very intently reading for, you know, high stakes. I would definitely like to hear that. I'd like to hear, I don't know how talkative they would be necessarily with their art, but like caricature artists, I'd like to hear how they would describe drawing, you know, like the Zenai pugnacious Jai. You got that look? There's like a thing. I'm curious to show them a bunch of like Zenai with their pugnacious Jai pictures. I'm like, draw that and like make them from one family, which would be pretty easy to do. You know what I mean? They're like, okay. And they're like, what would you think about this family's mouth? How would you describe this family's mouth? All right. Oh, we got to finish up here real quick. I think we weren't actually done. We're almost done. Okay. Next one's yours. Oh, different one here. Oh, different. Oopsie. But there you go. It's for you.
Vizai, Deborah Irene Bryant.
It's the Vizai show up in sport modeling and also pageants. Last two. The Zaini, Alice Buckingham, fairly classic there.
Yep.
Kind of a lean face. The chin too, kind of tapers it quite a bit. And sometimes I notice the towers. We talk the long foreheads. And I was noticing too, Bruno. Sometimes maybe not as exaggerated as a forehead elongation, but sometimes it seems like they also have a chin elongation.
Yeah.
They have longer foreheads and chins, which helps with that longness. Interesting. Okay, go yours.
Zaini buying burgers.
Nice. All right, boom. 12 new models dropped. All right, next up, music. All right. If you can see this. Yeah?
I see it.
Cool. Here we go. First one is one of yours. She's one of the 5 harmonies. Vijay Normani Corday. Pretty classic. Big drinking in eyes, laser.
I think they're all Vijay so far. 3 of them.
All right, this one's yours.
Vijay KRS-One.
Legend.
Yeah.
That's a big one right there. Okay. Nijai Tiffany Lamson. So the indie scene, I'm getting some Nijai ladies. I'm happy because I was running out of spots to find them.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at music, you can always find Nijais in music. Like, there's always just going to be Nijais there.
For sure. But the Nijai female seems like the one that's, I would say, of the 4 is the hardest to find.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Nijai Lapsley.
She took me a little while just because she has very clear eyes. But I think after watching video, they seem to be, I think they are diffuse. Although these are all soft reads right now. When we tighten up the whole collage, once everything's plugged in, we'll come back and revisit different cases. So I'll kind of revisit her again, but I think I'm seeing Nijai for right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Naiji Julian Lennon. Dun, dun, dun. That's probably a no-brainer, but it's good to confirm it, actually. One of yours.
Jivai Liso.
Is it? Did she do pop or hip hop or combination?
I think hip hop, indie hip hop or something. I think
Indie
she was
hip-hop.
actually already in the Rosetta Stone. I'm sorry, I noticed later that she was. I think she's the only one that I requested in duplicate, but she's already there
Cool.
as a Jivai.
Cool. All right. Naiji Francesca Lombardo. She one that you put forward?
Pretty sure. I don't really know her.
Okay, she looks indie. Looks pretty.
Yeah.
The whole styling. Number 8.
Nijai Anna Luno.
And she's interesting. It's also funny, like in the riffs, Bruno, is like which pictures you see doing what kinds of things. Because here on the left, she riffs me of several Nijai. I can't really put any names to them, but she riffs me of several of them. But they're different than the ones she riffs me of in this right picture. And this right one, she reminds me, something about her reminds me of Mo, the music artist Mo.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Where this one on the left doesn't remind me of her at all like that. She reminds me of a different kind of Nijai. You know what I mean? It's interesting.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's a big thing for me with looking at pictures. And I also like them small, like how when I go on Google, like I like doing riffing on my phone because then they're like super tiny, and they give me just the littlest amount of information that I can get. Like, you know, I can just barely make out a human face.
Right.
And then
that makes sense with the way the knee does it with the kind of the broad cross contextualizing, because that way you can kind of like move quickly to find what you need.
Move quickly, and also very. It's a lack of detail. It's like highly abstract.
Right.
It's like it looks like the size of a stamp. You know, it's tiny, but that actually helps with like cross connecting and abstracting. And yeah, I totally see what you're saying. I've been trying to find riffs for her. I was pretty sure this person was a Nijai. I'm trying to figure out who she reminds me of. I'm not sure if I'm going to get a good match, but definitely a lot of partial matches.
Yeah, she's giving a lot of partial matches. Exactly. All right. Nijai Kazu Makino. Now, she actually was surprising for me. The longness of her face, I was expecting a sub-rom or something. And then when I kept watching her videos, she kept moving and bobbling her head and doing Gumby Claw and everything like a Nijai. She's a, Some samples are actually easier to read with photographs, and other ones are easier to read with video. For me,
Yeah,
she was a lot easier with video. But there are other ones that in video they're kind of like they move around in kind of some funny ways, and they're hard to like lock in on. But if you freeze frame them or look at photos like Google or whatnot, it's like, oh, it's so obvious.
that's cool. Yeah, I'm pretty much at a loss with video, but
Yeah,
yeah, that's
I like to go both ways myself.
so sometimes video helps with the energy, but video usually helps with the energy for me more than the
Gotcha.
details. I mean, it'll take me a long time for me to get to the Xi and the V of the whole thing. This
Yeah,
this person,
but I
sorry.
see, no, I see what you're saying there because that's I actually do share that with you a bit in that I use that more kind of thing like the Xi V of it more when I'm looking at pictures or freeze frames. When it's moving, I still can do it because I have that bullet time ability, but it moves more into like overall motifs and like general maneuvers, and instead of like the very specific like nuanced aesthetics.
It's pretty awesome.
But you're saying, I'm sorry, I'm hoping to cut you off. Were you saying?
Oh, yeah, this person's really good. I've listened to her for a long time. She does like this very like it's very like shy, keening kind of
Oh, I like that.
like yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'll check her out. Kazuma Kino.
Yeah, she's in a band with two brothers, two identical twin brothers. It'd be neat to find out what they are. I think they're probably Naiji. So they're two Naiji twin brothers, and her. She's a singer.
That'd be cool. Yeah, go and throw them my way. We'll add them on. All right. We're in a very well canvassed music bubble here, Bruno. I like it.
I should hope so. I spent a lot of time putting this stuff together.
No, it's gonna be really, really good.
I mean, obviously you did as well, but I pitched in my share.
Oh yeah, you did big time. That's why I really enjoy working this with you. I think we can both take a lot of pride. It's really going to be awesome. In fact, I was going to mention that I've been mainly just putting in the new ones I've been showing you because I'm doing some other stuff. But once I get past like the purification in the next few weeks, I'm going to try to really start mocking up the music one with all the old samples of ones that have already been read, so it's fully complete. That'll take a bit because there's quite a few. But anyway, we're running out of the TV timeline. So I was looking for the next big collage to kind of like take its place, and so the music one will be good. I think the music one's probably going to be like 2 volumes. I think it's going to be close to like 2,000 samples. It's big.
Awesome.
Take it away.
All right. Ijai Dougie Mandagi.
Nice. Bill, I thought you'd want to know that, look forward to it. So next few weeks, we'll be done with the TV timeline and we'll shift into music.
That is awesome. That's definitely, I mean, if you notice, that's a lot of where my riffs are from. Musician, actor, musician plus whatever.
Exactly. So this would be great. Kind of do a full canvassing. All right. Naji Fiorella Manoia. Her look, I'm not quite sure what it is. Kind of looks a little indie, a little classical too. Not quite sure. A little like that Florence Welsh look.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like half indie, half classical or something. It's cool. All right, last one's yours.
Naiji Melanie Martinez.
And she's got that, we talk about that Rainbow Bright Naiji riff. They're cool. She's feeling her other. It's cool because she's still doing the 9 and everything. You see the dissatisfaction in the eyes and the mouth and everything. But she's got this whole thing she's rocking. And she's rocking it proud. And she would gladly tell you all about it. Well, maybe not if she was secretive, but if she was willing to talk, she would have a lot to say on it. Let me tell you why I do this. All right. So that is 6:30. I guess we can kind of just chat in the meantime. So one thing I was going to ask you about is the new music you put up. I haven't had a chance to listen to a lot of it. I played parts of 2 of them just to kind of get an idea. And one thing I was wondering about them is maybe you could tell me what it is that you're doing to the music. Because you said, I was trying to understand what you're saying. You said you didn't use any instruments, but you did other things. What is it that you're doing?
Basically, in all the songs, The only thing that I didn't write is the voice. And then there's one song that has a guitar solo. That also I didn't write or play. But aside from that one guitar solo, all the instruments are things I programmed. That's what I
Oh,
was trying
really?
to say. Yeah, that's
Ah,
what I was trying to
okay,
say.
okay. Thank you. I was thinking that might be one of the options, but it wasn't totally clear to me. That's very impressive, Bruno. Very impressive.
Thanks. Yeah, it's supposed to be sort of like having the computer play like humans would, sort of like teaching. It's a little bit like mojo reading in the sense that it's like abstracting what it means to be human and then putting it down on paper. This is like a electronic music version of it, like abstracting what it means to play like humans have played for the past 100 years or so.
Right.
Um, and then,
Hey, Mitchell.
Hey,
hey Mitchell,
hey,
All right, Bruno. I look forward to talking with you about this more because we'll be doing some more beats coming up very soon. We're rolling along with our jamming. And so anyway, I plan to listen to those music more because I want to. Now that I heard you say that, I'll have that in mind when I listen to them.
cool.
All right, talk to you more about it. Have a great
Thanks.
night, man.
You too.
all right, I'll have to look at this music too.
Hey there, Mitchell. Y'all
Hey.
set?
I
All right.
am set.
Cool. Here we go. All right, we're now here joined by Naji Mitchell, level 24 pilot practitioner, and we're going to be getting into tennis and STEM. All righty. So let's start off with tennis. I have a few more Zybe ladies today, so that's good. All right. Let me know if you see this. You do?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, cool. All right. I'll take odds, you take evens. This first one is Zybe Victor Estrella Burgos. And as always, if you know anything about these people or tennis stuff in general, let me know. Oh, when is that next big tourney coming up?
Next big tournament
So soon,
is
right?
the 22nd. The French Open starts. There's a lot of tournaments going on now. There's the Madrid was last week. The Rome Masters this week.
Oh,
That's
wow.
like the next level biggest.
But are they Grand Slam big?
No, these are Masters big.
And is the French Open Grand Slam big?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what's the difference between Grand Slam big and you said Masters big?
Yeah, Masters is just the one level below.
What's the difference? As far as
You get half the points basically for whatever round you're in, and about half the players are in the tournament.
Okay, so it's still like a big deal. It's just smaller.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm just guessing. Are those kind of treated as like tune-ups for people, and then they?
Yes, it is. Yeah, there's there's like a clay master series where you have several leading up to the big clay Grand Slam, the French Open.
Gotcha.
Right now,
And-
it looks like Djokovic is winning them.
Who's that?
Djokovic is the number 1 player in the world.
Oh, is this male?
Yes.
What happened to? I thought it was. Weren't there different names last time? Like Federer and Nadal.
Yeah,
and-
Federer and Nadal are playing.
Are they like?
Or actually, Federer's been injured, so he hasn't really been playing much, and I think he's sort of still getting back into his groove. But yeah, he's in the top few because he just even being injured out for so long, he just has so many points that he's still in the top.
Okay, but
five,
Djokovic has taken over both him and Nadal.
Yeah, Djokovic has been number 1 for a while now.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. When did that happen? When did he take Nadal? Because Federer's injured, but Nadal wasn't injured, so he just beat him.
Nadal, I don't know exactly how long Djokovic has been number 1, but it's several years.
Okay, cool. I've been updated. Yeah, I haven't visited the tennis bubble for a while, so it's really good. Oh, speaking of Nadal in a way, I have a Jai V tonight. Wahaha.
Oh,
All right. So, I was going to ask you one more question. Maybe I should wait to the end to see if I have time, but I was going to ask about the difference between the clay court and is it grass and clay?
grass, clay, and hard.
That's very hard. Oh, okay, cool. If we have time, I'd like to get a little information about that.
Uh-huh.
Have you played on all three yourself?
I have never played on grass.
Is that kind of old school? Do people not normally do that?
That's very old school. Yeah, very old school British.
Okay, got it. So most of these tournaments, it's going to be clay and hard.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right, you're up, sir.
It's pretty unique. So my turn. Zyvi Anna Kunja.
Yeah, pretty classic, except that she has a rather full face and a kind of a soft roundness a bit. That if you look quickly, she might look, especially on the right here, almost like a Zyvi a bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I have noticed that. Like there are some like Zyvi, like there was like where they have a lot of yangs to their face. Powerful faces.
All right, next up.
Lens quiz. Obviously.
Ivy Danka Kovinik, pretty classic there.
Zyvi Philip Krajinovic.
And this one on the left, he looks to me like a literal chess player.
Yeah. Pondering his move.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's probably like at a press conference or something. Interview.
Wait, that was supposed to be you. Did you do that one?
Yeah, I did it.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
You just made a comment.
All right. Zyvi Mikhail Kukushkin. Is it just because that name is fun to say, or is he actually well known? That name sounds like tingling in my head, but it could just because it's fun to say.
Well, I think there are some people that are more well known that have the first name Mikhail.
Right, but I was actually referring to that last name, Kukushkin.
I don't believe so. Although maybe he's good now. I've never heard anything.
Anyway, he's pretty classic as well, but I like when, as far as teaching people like how to see the mojo, it's cool when you, first of all, have classic, and then to go to like classic with a variant, and then to start going to like more like unusual. So he's pretty much classic, except he's got rather fuller lips, and particularly his lower lip is quite full. So, it might think like, oh, is it a Jai mojo? But no, I believe that is still Ji. There's no energy in the upper lip. He just has a large lower lip.
Yeah, I see. He's 87 in the world, yeah. Genesis. Rising up. Zai, Elizaveta Kulichkova. I think I pronounced that right.
Got a larger smile and the bright eyes.
Yeah.
All right. Zyvi Andrei Kuznetsov, and that's pretty classic. That's one of the more, I would say it's like a very strong classic one. I don't see any variants going on. Look like G, strong upper lip, very sheer cheeks, bright eyes, long face, chiseled.
Oh, he's pretty good. He's 39 in the world.
Oh, nice.
He must be.
Like, is it generally done by like the top, 100, 200? What's considered to be good?
Yeah, I usually like when that said I'm looking at it list the top 100 right now.
Gotcha.
But you can look deeper. But like that's a name that's harder to find. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that's what I'm wondering about it. Because I would like to go deep as we can on the tennis bubble because it has so many mojos that we don't get other places. So
yeah, and it cycles around like around the top, like the bottom half more often. So we've read some people that are in the top 200 and lower.
Gotcha. All right, and yours.
Zyvi Dusan Lajovic.
And he riffed me of, I can see he was the logic base, but like one on the right here, something about him reminds me of like some actors, Naiji actors, except that he's logic based.
That's interesting.
His smile, I don't know, something about it's a little more something than some of the other ones.
We have had some Naiji or other mojos that were read as IV before, but then got switched.
So, as I was saying to Bruno, is that when we're doing mass reading, it's understood that all these are soft reads, including reads we've already done. Whenever you go into like flip a bubble, and we're just going to put everything up on the board, get everything out, and kind of put in their first initial places, and then we'll start tightening the locks.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's kind of general strategy. Get all the names you can get, then go for the lowest hanging fruit, then go for the harder ones, and then that's just to put them initially in place, and then you start purifying. All right. There we go. Jaivi Paolo Lorenzi. And you can see that's definitely different. He looks like a soccer player.
I wonder what his like nationality is. Like if these Jaivi come from more often from a particular nationality, or are they
Interesting. Where's Nadal from?
all over? Nadal's Spanish.
Lorenzi. Kind of sounds Italian, I would think. But maybe
It does. So that's kind of good. I mean, I guess it means it will be more universal.
Yeah. But yeah, you see the emoting going all the way up, and that definitely is an expectant emoting. On both those, he's has that. And then the crinkling all up in the eyes. Nice. It's good to get a little diversity in there. Go, Jaivi. You can do it. Oh, is he considered good? Oh, maybe you don't know him.
Don't know. No, so I don't think he's that good now, but
Maybe. Keep working on it, sir. Keep working on it.
seems like some of these people are kind of psyched.
Thank you.
All right. Zaivi Yen Sun Lu.
Okay. That's another time. Just take that tag off.
Yeah, you're right. I actually remember his face.
All right. Zaivi Merjana Lusic Baroni. Interesting. And she, to me, looks like a lot of the models.
Yeah, she does.
Models.
Does like really thin face look with the super sheer cheeks.
And a Bambi smile. She knows she uses her smile a bit more than some of the Zaivi we've seen in here. She's working it.
Yeah.
Work it. But has those clear eyes, not as diffuse. All right, last one's yours.
All right. Zaivi Vojislava Lukic.
Yep. Pretty classic. Again, rips a little bit of the models.
A little bit. Yeah.
The long and lean face, and her smile is a bit more like knowing. All of them have an aware smile, if you know what I mean, because they use G. But some of them have more of like an athlete's, lack of a better term, an athlete's usage of their G, more, you know what I mean, in the game or for exertion or something. But some of them actually do what I call more like posing G, which you associate more with modeling. She's kind of doing like a posing G. At least that left one.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, you saying something?
No, I just agree with you. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So that is the new tennis drops, 12 of them. We got like a minute before we move on. Can you give me maybe a little bit of a crash course on clays? You said clay versus hard.
Yeah, that's the most common distinction. Those are most tournaments. Most tournaments are hard. That's the most common. And then, yeah, so that's just kind of the standard. I mean, I don't know how much there's to say about it, but clay, what's different about it is that, and I have played on clay, is that the ball catches more on the surface because of the clay. It like sinks in, so the spin has more of an effect. So either top spin is going to make the ball kick up more, and slice is going to die more when it lands.
Gotcha.
Slice is like backspin.
So the clay has more like grip.
It has more like grip, and it's just slower. It takes more off the ball, so it's more grindy. It favors. Not that players who hit the ball hard don't do well, because they can also hit through the clay better, but it does favor players with more of a defensive style.
Gotcha. And more use of curve. Do some players?
Yeah. Use of heavy spin, and there are specialists for different surfaces. Like there are people who are only good on hardcore, people who are only good on clay. Spain is very, very famous for producing a lot of powerful good clay players like Nadal.
Gotcha. I'm just guessing then, is that an evolution in time? Was the grass obviously the first thing people used, then it went to
I
clay?
believe so. I think the grass was the very first one, and now it's probably the least common. But there are a few
Right.
tournaments, like a few
Gotcha.
leading up to Wimbledon, where they play on grass. Grass, I don't know as much about. I know that it's kind of slippery almost.
Right.
But grass, kind of like hard, does actually favor a heavy hitting and players that rush the net a lot.
I would imagine it also would favor scramblers, improvers, because wouldn't the grass just being nature, it's going to be, that grip spinning you were talking about from the clay, it might have in the grass, but it would be random, right? It
is a little more random. The ball bumps around more. You're exactly right. Yeah, and the grass like clumps as the players move on it, and it gets some weird bounces.
So I guess,
like the lines and stuff. Yeah.
So I guess a quick thinking improver might have some advantage on that. But then
true.
Am I guessing then that the hard is the most common and is what the wave of the future? Is that?
Yeah, that's kind of like the standardized, just hard court asphalt.
Oh, that's what it is. It's made from asphalt.
I don't know. Actually, now I think about it, I really don't know that. There's a specific surface that they have. There's like technical names for it. I don't know what it is.
Got it. All right, cool. I appreciate it. Crash course in the sets. And so 10 days it begins, and you said they go for like a couple weeks, right?
Yeah. Until have it in front of me.
All right. So we'll see.
22nd to the 5th of June.
Oh, and one last question before we move on. We should wait. We should probably go on to STEM. So I'll ask that question next time. I'm curious about like how one moves through the tournament. We'll do that next time. All right. Here we go. STEM. Let me know if you see it.
I do see it.
All right. Same thing. I'll take odds. All right. Zaini Akshay Venkatesh. Reminds me of a few of the Zaini we've seen.
Yes. Yeah, like a few of the Indian variety.
And also, yeah, Indian, and also just what I was noting is I've seen actually, and also the Caucasian ones too, where they kind of have this, I don't know, big, the teeth are larger. You know what I mean? And then they have kind of like the wild hair.
The mad scientist.
It does.
And they have like this glazed look in their eyes.
They look like they're getting their science on.
Yeah, they've got like their drug-like logical levels.
Yeah, right? They look like they're having a good time. He's getting his math on. Good for him. All right, this one's yours.
Zaini Alexander Unziker, that's one of the ones I requested. Physicist, neuroscientist, and critic of particle physics and string theory.
Critic. What is he critical of?
He's very, very critical of the entire field. He's actually kind of a maverick. There's a lot of people who like him a lot, and a lot of people who really don't. He's a very polarizing figure. And he writes these popular books. He's particularly what he's critical about. I haven't read them.
Right.
So I was sort of interested in, but I might at some point. String theory, a lot of people criticize that he's not alone there as basically being
right. But particle physics stood out. I thought that was kind of.
But yeah, particle physics. He basically thinks it's like. I'm definitely strawmanning him here a little bit because I don't know the details, but he basically thinks it's like a little bit contrived and too complex, like on all this data. Like it's just one ad hoc theory after another, and it's not really going to any like elegant theory of nature. You could just sort of, yeah. It's hard to describe. But I haven't read his book, so that's a horrible representation, I'm sure, of this criticism.
Gotcha. But I'm curious because string theory. I think there's a lot of interesting things to it, but I also can see there could definitely be some areas of concern and issues. But particle physics, I'm like,
yeah, that is a little more unusual.
Yeah, interesting. All right, cool. Sinai Louise Slaughter, a microbiologist and U.S. Congresswoman.
Interesting.
Because just at one wouldn't be enough. But you know what? It's interesting. I was wondering about this, if there would ever be any crossover here, because you see a lot of Sinai in business and law and politics. So it's not uncommon that when you see Xeni in politics that they come from a law or business background. But at least of the ladies, they also, we see a lot in pop culture, in pioneering different scientific fields and expeditions and whatnot. And I was like, I wonder if that will ever be a crossover. Because the reason I thought that is there is like one or two guys that are like science-y Phi Alpha. Yeah, I think they're both Phi Alpha. I think they're Phi G. They're like medicine people or something.
Yeah, Ben Carson is one of them.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, cool.
That is a very interesting.
Go her.
I hope they advocate for science.
Her parents must be proud. All right. I can't just have one amazing career. I need two.
All right. Nizai Melvin Schwartz, Nobel Prize winner in physics.
Yeah, the one that was right here kind of reminds me of several of Nizai comedians from back in the day. All right. Nizai Jack Steinberger. He's pretty serious looking.
He's very serious looking, right? He's got a lot of eye even in his face.
Hey, Jenny.
His face looks
a lot concerned.
Scrunchy.
Yeah, it does. He looks of the knees I've seen. He's one that stands out for looking very concerned.
Does.
Right, this is you.
Zaini Massimo Pigliucci, biologist, philosopher of science, rationally speaking podcasts, outspoken critic of pseudoscience and creationism. He's another one of us.
Gotcha. That's pretty classic. The debunkers, the Zaini debunker, they're very good at it.
See how to think that up.
Oh, random thing for you. Are you familiar at all with Harry Houdini, the escape artist?
Harry Houdini?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I am. I've heard of him.
Are you familiar that he actually also was heavily into debunking pseudoscience and?
No, I didn't know that. But I've heard of him as like a magician and
yes,
escape artist and stuff.
And he was big on actually promoting that it was an art, a craft, one where you don't share the secrets, but it's all there. And he actually is the one that pioneered the association of magicians debunking. So like the amazing Randy and Penn and Teller and a lot of the magicians that, also besides doing magician, they debunk stupid, particularly like, sophisticated, long-standing stupid, like, tarot and things like that. So it's very interesting that kind of started there. But anyway, long story short, his friend was Sir Conan Arthur Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes. And he was actually a very smart person, and he made the Sherlock Holmes character based on rational reason, thought, and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And he was in general a very reasoned individual, but he was a devout spiritualist and believed in the supernatural and things of that nature. And him and Houdini parted ways and became not friends anymore. They were antagonistic towards each other because they could not agree on that thing.
Wow.
Because generally being rational, but Doyle did take comfort in things like seances and speaking with dead relatives and so forth that gave him comfort. And Houdini, he was debunking them all. And so I guess he was getting a killjoy as far as Doyle was concerned.
Have we read these people at all?
No, they're too old to be read. So it's just an interesting historic kind of thing. And that it made me think of it. One, there's a show on right now called Houdini and Doyle that just started, and it's actually about them as the time period where they were still friends, then making up a history where they worked cases together, like crime cases, which I don't think ever actually necessarily happened, but they could have, because they were both very, very intelligent individuals. If you study Harry Houdini, to do what he did, escaping and the magic, all kind of stuff he was doing, he actually was an extremely smart person and allowed him to see through a lot of illusions. Anyway, it's now kind of a thing, like a professional debunker. I wonder what all these Zaini debunkers were doing before then. I guess they probably were still debunkers, but I don't know if they necessarily call themselves that.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know much about Randy's life before he started that. This guy still is just an academic, but
Gotcha.
On the side he does he has a nice blog. And he's an interesting academic though. He's like kind of eclectic. I mean, he studied science and biology, but he also philosophy of science.
Nice. He looks like he has a good amount of knee. Looks buoyant.
Mhm.
All right. Nizai Adam Reese, Nobel Prize in Physics.
So are they winning a Nobel Prizes in physics now?
I think the Nizai have a strong lead, strong lead in that department.
Yeah. So I think we used to think Ziny a long time ago when we were like just starting, but now that we've like
Yeah.
really got into it, I think the Nizai are really.
It's really interesting. It really, really is. How good streaks like that. There's two things to kind of note that can affect that. One is that when you go deeper into the bubble, the demographics do shift from a reading of the most well-known or surface read versus a full depth read. That's one thing we're experiencing. The other one is that also the low-hanging fruit. I tend to go in streaks. Like I'll have sort of like my eye calibrated towards Ziny, and I'll go through and see if I can find anyone that are like meeting my search criteria. And then, you know what I mean? Other times I'm more, I'm feeling like the Nizai. It depends kind of my mood. So I just noticed that I do tend to read in streaks, particularly when I'm doing bubble reading. So combination of factors there for scientific transparency. All right. That's you.
Nizai Carlo Rubia, Nobel Prize winner in physics.
Imagine that.
Yeah. He's got some vibe.
He does.
There. On the right, especially there. Really, he's given like a hunter assessment kind of look.
He does. But he still kind of reminds me a little like, you know, the knee kind of like mischievousness.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know the actor? What's his name? He played on Talk Radio, and he also plays on Idiot Sitter. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He was in Office Space. Did you see Office Space, that movie?
No.
Anyway, he's the one that went crazy about a stapler.
That's pretty funny.
What's his name?
Crazy about a stapler.
Oh, shit. John Lee shouted the name of the character from the movie, but not the actor's name.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Charlene. All right. Nizai William Ruckelshaus. Nizai, first head of the EPA.
That's interesting.
Nice. Go you. All right. That's a biggie, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it is. Wow. Ziny Erwin Schrödinger. That's very, very big one. I actually didn't even request him, so I'm really glad that you read him.
Didn't have a lot of media. He was not.
Oh yeah, he's one of the older ones. He's a founder of quantum
but he was pretty classic looking. The face and the hands and pretty much all of it.
I'm not surprised by that read, but nonetheless, good to have.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big name.
Schrödinger's equations.
Okay, gonna have a Vaiji here, and like a lot of the Vaiji here, he's kind of coming in from the medicine angle, but he is doing pioneering research that I think would qualify for science and STEM.
Oh, yeah.
Vaiji Rudolph Tanzi, Alzheimer research pioneer. All right, last one up is for you.
Ooh. Ziny female, Ziny Fiorella Terenzi, astrophysicist.
Nice. So got a little, yeah, got some rarer ones in there today. Nice. All right. So we're pretty much done. While we're waiting for the next person, Ben, to come on, maybe we can just touch on who have we read so far. I got a few more of your requests in there.
I think you got most of them. There might be a few more. I sent you. I'll go look at it really quick.
Yeah.
Sentence. Okay. So some of them might not even be readable.
Right. That's
so
what
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, I can give you status if you ask their names. Who haven't I read? I'll tell you their status.
Or at least yes. Kenneth Arrow.
How do you spell that? Like arrow regular?
Yeah, Arrow. This is last
All
name. Arrow.
No, I do have him. He'll come out soon.
Okay. Sounds good. Rudolph Carnap.
How do you spell that?
Carnap is Carnap. He's a tough one. He's one of those older ones.
Yeah, he's limited media. I couldn't get him.
Okay.
I tried. Who's up? Who else?
Artur Avila. Avila is spelled Avila.
Avila. Artur. Okay, I do have him. He'll be coming out soon.
Good. And last, and this might be another tough one because he's another one of the older ones, but I think he's maybe a little better than Carnap. Edsger Dijkstra. That's the last name is spelled Dijkstra.
Yeah, he was limited media. I
Okay.
couldn't get him. I tried. I wanted to, but unfortunately, it was a little tough. So there was only 4 have been done so far, and then 2 of them are limited media, and 2 of them will be coming out.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So if you have any more, you can send my way. That'd be great. But I do have some other ones to show you that that you didn't request. But if you have any more requests, yeah, pile them on. Alrighty. Thank you, Mitchell.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, Mitchell.
Thanks.
More tennis soon. I'm looking forward to that tournament. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Coach.
Alrighty. So I've been joined by Ben, Naiji Ben, a level 24 pod layer practitioner, and we're going to get all up in the U.S. politics.
Awesome.
All right, here we go. Where is it? There it is. Okay, let me know if you see this.
Yes, I see it.
All right, here we go. I'll take odds, you take evens.
All right.
So I mentioned to you before that sometimes I kind of read in streaks. I was talking to Mitchell about this, is that as far as like reading on the mass reading, while we're unfolding it, unpacking it, so to speak, there's 2 kind of things to note. One is that the demographics do shift in some bubbles when you go from like a shallow read, where you're reading like just the most famous ones of that bubble, and then when you go deeper into the bubble, the demographics can shift some. So that's one thing. The other one is on my end as a reader doing the mass reading is going with the thing of like lowest hanging fruit. A lot of times that involves like I have a breakthrough, like a, kind of like in a video game. I've got a new upgrade on my Z9 targeting device. And so when that happens, I'll tend to go read a bunch of Z9. They'll become low-hanging fruit. And then I'll have like an upgrade in Baiji. And for the next week or so, I'm like reading Baiji. So there's also a streakiness to how I go about reading.
Yeah, like your lens is like, at certain times it's more suited to picking off certain mojos versus others. Whereas certain people you'd be less sure on are more likely, I guess, to be other mojos than the ones who are the ones that you happen to be particularly.
No, very
because
true.
like picking lowest hanging fruit is naturally going to do that.
It is, because the lowest hanging fruit is a combination of that maybe there's easier to read like in general, but also where your head is. You know what I mean? Where your head is at that time, certain reads will be easier. And I noticed that it just tends to be run in streaks. Oops, I think I may have lost the. Let me try this again. Okay. Alrighty. So this is Zenai K Mark Takai. So today I think we're gonna have some good amount of Z mojos, Zenai. All right, there you go.
Z9 Mark Takano.
Cute.
I know he doesn't have coloring to his tag.
Yeah, that's because this is still in progress. I've taken them from collages that are different points of being finished
I see.
for this year's reads in order to populate these bubbles. But yeah, and also as I mentioned the other ones, I said to you I think before, but it's good to repeat it for how this is done. Is when doing bubble reading, first you want to try to just gather as many names as you can, just get as many as you can in order that you can have the most options, and it makes the number, even if it's really big, not scary. It's just a number. So it's good to kind of gather all that. The next thing is then with your options is going for the lowest hanging fruit and going for, instead of trying to like really burrow in hard on samples, just doing lots of waves. One, like a wave of low hanging fruit, just getting light, just not trying to get every little thing, just get ones that kind of pop out, and doing that lots of times. And then understanding that all these samples are soft reads until the bubble is fully, unpacked, and that includes, very important, even the reads that were already read. Anytime I'm like, I'm going to bubble read a new bubble, and so I have a bunch of these politicians previously read, I soften them. So all the new reads are soft, and all the old reads are softened in order to let everything kind of just go to where it needs to drift, kind of like fifth gear into its proper place. Does that make sense?
So
it's basically like a quasi-death. In order to have a bubble-sized quasi-death, you need to like release everything that we have as far as being firm, and just allow it to be soft, and put up everything where we think it should go initially, and then we'll begin to firm up the entire.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
But kind of like in the beginning, when you're adding a bunch of the new ones in order to fill the whole bubble up, you just kind of put them up where you think they go, in the beginning. Kind of like, like you're decorating a house. You kind of just move things into their general corners. And then once
I kind of see how it feels.
Exactly. So unpack all the boxes, put everything up somewhere you think it likely will go, and then you start refining.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then you invite people over to look at it. Or in our case, publish. All right. I have 24 of these for you today, as usual. All right, Zenai IBR Taylor. Pretty classic. One nice thing is kind of a lot of gender cross-riffing with the Zenai and politics. Not as much with the Biop, a little bit of the Baiji, because there is a decent amount of Baiji ladies, but there's quite a few Zenai ladies. And since they're both politicians, obviously they're doing different things, the more feminine thing or masculine thing. But overall, you know what I mean? There's a lot of similar maneuvers they have to do as part of their job. So
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
This one's you?
Z9, Benny Thompson. He's
Yeah,
kind of got the expression in the picture on the left is interesting. He's kind of like there's kind of a Jai, like there's a squinting with his 9, and then his Jai is also activated, but he's also articulating, so it's kind of.
Yeah, I think probably that picture, he's probably just gotten done saying something, and is like the aftermath. That's interesting to notice that a lot of times the Z Jai users, after they're done talking in the pause phase, because they have Jai, they don't close their mouth. It remains open. Even on the right here, it's he's slightly slacked open.
Yeah.
But G users, even like G moders, but also like G modulation, like Zaini, say Demas or Nizai comedians, like Colbert, when they stop their speech, usually their mouth comes to like a closed lift position.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Very cool. And if you have anything to shout out,
and when Z articulates, Z users, it's more closed than when G users articulate, right? Or is that
interesting?
Is that the case? Because I notice the Z pushes downward, whereas the
you know what? That's a very subtle observation, and
it might not necessarily be as notable as with Zai and Jai, but it might be there. I don't know.
I think it's a more subtle observation, but just that's a very good observation, Ben. I think you might have something there. Let me look into that more and get back to you, but I think you might have something there. Because I am thinking about it, for example, the deadpan delivery of Nijai or Jaini or something like that. I'm like, what makes it deadpan? Well, their cheeks don't move much.
Yeah, it's kind of
But you're suggesting, which I think is true, that's basically the cheeks are curtaining. That curtaining does go all the way down to the lips.
Yeah, so that creates a tendency there to be less opening, I think, just in general.
I think you're right. I think that's something I kind of just myself noted unconsciously. It didn't ever really like.
Yeah, and
that's a great observation.
And when there is more opening, oftentimes it'll be more with the Jai than with the Z, right? So it's so activation Z.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the mouth will open up more as the modi kicks in. Yeah, that's very true.
With the downward, the downward, because it's kind of like the emphasis on the lower lip versus the emphasis on the upper lip, right?
Well, there's that aspect, but that's more the Jai to G. But in this case, you're talking about the curtaining, the fact that curtaining is happening while they talk, and so there is actually neutralization.
Yeah, because I was thinking
that's a good point.
That could be because then what that would imply is that there would be an association for logic-based power to be more associated with the closing and curtaining or tightening, whereas values base is more likely to open, cause your mouth to open more.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah, with the snarls or smiles in the
Yeah.
case of G. Yeah, and I think I'm trying to think now why it's more subtle. I think probably why it's more subtle is that thing you're talking about, what we're talking about here, which is the weight of the curtaining on the lip with the Zez power, is that the mouth is still moving when they're articulating. So
Yeah.
there's weight on the lip,
Yeah, that's
but
true.
the lips are still moving because they're talking. Whereas it's more obvious on the towering or the waiting phase because they pause, and then
Yeah.
you can see how they rest when they pause. So I think that's what it is. I think it's more subtle in the articulation because you have to watch it on a moving mouth as opposed to a still mouth.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was really good insight. We should bring that up next time, maybe if you can remind me Sunday. That's
For sure.
That's a good observation.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll try to remember too.
Cool. Alrighty. Next up. Yeah, got some Vizy in here as well. Vizy, Mike Thompson. Vizy, Mike Thompson. Nice.
That's very serious.
Seriously, like they just, you know what I mean? Like Vizy are kind of like, not always, but sometimes they can be, more traditionally oriented. And that name, Mike Thomas. No, Mike Thompson, but still, you know what I mean?
They seem like very, I guess, kind of like very, I guess, in a way, like it's kind of like they can push through like so much like just practical stuff, you know, like that it's like they're.
You know what? On that, I mean, props to them in general, the Bi Alpha, for being able to do that in politics. But I got to give a special shout out to Xeni because they are interpretive.
Yep.
It is a mind-numbing amount of details and stuff to keep track of when you're a politician. It's so detail-oriented, and any little detail could be the right or wrong person to call at a critical moment to get a deal made. So, but the Xeni seem to do quite well. But they must really have to. Maybe they have some sort of Z system for keeping track of it all.
Yeah, it's interesting that Z-Vi don't tend to be as prominent as the Xeni. I didn't, because you'd think Z-Vi would be better. I don't know. But.
Yeah, but Jilene, but the same phenomenon holds true in journalism and business. The 2Vi Alpha and the Xeni, but not Z-Vi. But Jilene made a suggestion, which I think is a good one too, is Xeni do tend to be very galvanizing and getting people to do stuff. So delegating it. Maybe they delegate a lot of these tasks and don't necessarily do them themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
I'm sure
the V can be really useful. Yeah, that's.
I'm sure they all delegate, but maybe the Xeni particularly delegates certain of these. Keeping such tight control and memory over these very important details.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Cool. And thanks for shout out, Jilene.
Yeah.
Feel free to shout in as you like. All right, this one's you.
Vizy Mac Thornberry.
Hey, Mac. But yeah, see, he's doing it. In the especially the one on the right, you can see there's a lot of weight on his upper lip while he's talking.
Yeah.
If you can see like that the curtaining is like holding his lips, holding the mustache area. It's holding the mustache area heavy, while the lips are moving. You know what I mean? So lips are moving, but like this whole mustache area is not moving at all. That was a G mojo.
Yeah, and it feels like there's a lot of curtaining on the upper lip, whereas like the Jai is it's more associated with the lower lip. Like
True.
It's interesting.
Oops, that one get him. All right, I got it. Stuff. IGJ Tib Shraney. He's pretty classic.
Yeah.
Mayor of Chandler. Don't know what that is. I got these mayors from a list of like the biggest cities, but some of the cities I've not heard of. You're up.
Vizy Scott Tipton. I guess what the cities we could do is include the state as well.
Yeah,
I guess that's one way to do it.
Yeah, but I have to go research that. I don't have time to do a lot of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I try to find good sites that make good lists of things so I can kind of like grab what they have for contextualizing. But you are right. Once I get these, this will take a lot of work to do, but once I get these bubble collages built up, I would like to then go in and give more detail on their descriptor. You know what I mean? Like in this politics, I'd like to go in and like note for these congressmen what state, what district, and are they Republican, Democrat, Independent. It'd be really great to have. I just right now.
There's higher priorities.
Yeah, there's higher priorities, but I would
because I mean anyone could like Google these people's names, and odds are if they did want to their Mojo, they probably will already know stuff about them. So it's kind of.
Yeah, but at some point that I would like to do that, and it's something that later on, if anyone is interested in doing it, I would offer it for credit for production credit, track 3, because it would be very valuable to have. But in the beginning, obviously, getting the pictures and reading them correctly is the biggest.
Yeah.
Oh, that's yours actually. You say him already? Oh, did you say him already?
I'm not.
Did I do the one above this one?
I'm not sure. This is number 8 though, so you should take this one because you're
okay. By Z Scott Stipton.
There you go. He looks like a basketball coach or something.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, especially like the one on the left. It almost looks like he's in like a basketball like gym or something.
It does, like sitting down, like looking at the game or something.
Yeah, like for some reason it. It's funny, like the background oftentimes, does make me think about like, kind of what kind of character they are. I don't know what they're doing.
I try to pick pictures based on getting 2 different expressions if I can. Well, first they be good quality, clarity, and resolution. But I try to get 2 different expressions if I can, and I also try to make a neutral background as I can get. But it isn't always possible. Sometimes you can just tell. Like some of the soccer players, like you can't get pictures of them without a soccer crowd behind them screaming.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives it away. All right. Number 9 is me, Zenai Dina Titus. Pretty classic.
Yeah, she's got a kind of. It's interesting. Zenai it can often have rounder features, but it's an interesting kind of round. It's like more ovally, I guess.
It's not ovally. It's actually I think you're going for maybe, but it's what I'm seeing. It's kind of a square circle.
Yeah, square circle.
It's like a block. It's like a blocky circle, which is why it's still powerhead.
Yeah.
Jylene says it's a squircle. And you know what? The Zenai that had that squircle, they sometimes give me a tough time, particularly if they're like sciencey or something, or they're like into activism. Between the squirrely Nijai, because Nijai typically have a rounder face and more of like a apple-shaped face or whatever, heart-shaped face, but sometimes it gets a little blocky. You know what I mean? Not in a bad way, just sometimes that rift, and they can look a lot like a Zenai.
Yeah, that's true.
So to me, like a tough read is when you get that kind of like physiological rift, and it shows up in a career where it could be either one of them. Like, tricky. Yeah, some of the Zenai activist blogger ladies had rather pillowy faces. Power bracing pillowy faces, but bracing pillow, a bracing pillow.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Vaiji, Paul Tonko.
Looks like a doctor or something that I've seen too.
Yeah. I kind of like the picture on the left. He looks very like, I don't know. He seems like he is kind of.
He looks affable, and he's got a nice twinkle in his eye with his knee.
Yeah,
too.
he's twinkle, and he looks kind of. He looks kind of like it's kind of an intelligent look on his face. I don't know, like it.
That's good. That's a good observation too. Yeah, I'm curious also on later on we get because we cover this for the rest of our lives. So once we get the bubble built up, we'll start getting all into the different elections and so forth, but also doing like sub bubbles within this of like the Democrats as opposed to the Republicans versus independents. Is there a difference in Mojo split? It's probably obviously going to see the top.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the exact numbers are on that.
Yeah, and then also
I'm sure we have enough data to get an estimate already, but it's it would take some time to compile it and figure it out.
It would, but I think also when we get to where we have like 1,000+ politicians, then like going into sub bubbles of that is worthwhile. That's enough data.
Yeah.
It's worthwhile.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of implications on like big data. Like once you have like enough of like enough in a certain field, you have all these different subfields, and you have all this different data on which mojos are in different sub areas and so forth. And it becomes really interesting when you compare different subfields, other subfields, and so forth.
Yeah. It tells a more
Yeah.
complete story, more intricate, more complete, and gives you better powers of prediction.
Yeah, it allows you to basically zoom in more, which is really useful.
Totally.
Because we have acting, but acting, even like acting in itself isn't like the full story. I mean, there's like TV acting,
Mhm.
there's
There's
voice
comedy,
acting,
and there's leading roles, supporting role. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of ways. Romantic stuff versus hard-boiled,
Oh
law
yeah,
stuff.
for sure.
Yeah. Now, this is exciting. All right, next up, number 11, Zenai Norma Torres. One thing too, a lot of these Zenai politicians, they tend to be having a pretty bammy smile. It's cool to see a polar jai used for you know what I mean, because they have to use it all the time. It's very important to most politicians that they can exude a good-naturedness.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of really smiley Xena, but you can see it's altered state, especially on the picture on the right. I think it looks more like.
Yeah, you can tell it's altered state. You can also tell that it's jai.
Yep.
Even though, if it makes sense, it's a rather aware maneuver, but I guess more it's a maneuver she's thought to do, so she's doing it, but it's still unaware, and because that's why it looks a little, you know what I mean, not quite sure what it's doing.
Yeah.
This is the same thing with the Phi-Z. There's a lot of riffs of affable Phi-Z politicians. They tend to be smiley and so forth. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. But it doesn't have the same awareness to it, even when they're definitely doing it on purpose. But doing it on purpose, it doesn't make it aware.
Yeah.
All right. That's you.
Vaji, David Trott. Very classic, I think.
All right. IG Nikki Sangas. She was a little tricky for me just because she has a bit more of a fuller face.
Yeah, she does. But yeah, it's interesting. I noticed like hunters can kind of have a squarishness like below the brim line.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a pyramid sort of pyramid squarishness. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. That's a good way to say it. Oh,
It's like a rectangular. It's like a square pyramid, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and are you talking about like say upside down pyramid?
Oh yeah, upside down.
Yeah, I understand then. Yeah, for sure.
Branching out like I guess like towards you as well. Like there's one that's like kind of upside down, but also one that kind of goes like on the picture on the left.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of doesn't kind of look like there's a pyramid coming from the face towards you, sort of.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So there's what you mentioned about the vertical, but also horizontal. There might be kind of like a possibly.
Yeah, for me, I don't so much see the pyramid, but I think I see a bit. I see kind of like a wedge-shaped face, which I don't typically associate with hunters, so they're a little tricky to read. Her eyes help a lot.
Yeah, I do see hunters pictured on the left have that kind of look to them. I guess but I don't know. It might not necessarily have to do with hunters though. It might be kind of like a more like human thing. I don't know.
I'm not sure either. We may just need more data because we don't have a lot of these Baiji ladies in general. So the more we get, the more we'll be able to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed, for example, like in other places I've seen Baiji ladies, like for example in mixed martial arts, we have several from there. They tend to have more of a classic hunter face to them. They also tend to be more physically fit, so that might be something else too. But a lot of the Vi Alpha politicians have a heavier look sometimes, and sometimes not even like just they're like heavy in their body. They just have like a bigger head.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, we have to cruise here a little bit because we have several more to cover. We can do it. That's you.
Vaji, Sylvester Turner.
Yeah, he's got a decent sized noggin.
I like the picture on the right. He's kind of. He's like. I mean, it's like aware, but he's like not sure what to.
And you can really see that Jess Hunter thing where the G goes, up easily above the midline for sure, the cheeks, but those eyes. Right there, that's you. All right, 15. Vaji Fred Upton. He's kind of got the steely Vaji thing going on. But again, notice that it's on the pause phase.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, 16 is yours.
Vizi, David G. Villado.
Yeah, he's one that if you look at like the different things, like the squinty eyes and the amount of Jai he has, which does go up more than say Jai Polar, it goes up a little more than that. There is actually a general elongation of the face if you look at it closely enough. But if you look at him quickly, the first thing you kind of notice, like in a very like, kind of broad, simple way, is he has a big head.
Yeah. Yep.
That's neat because one thing the politicians help with, particularly saying the buyout, the big heads, is noting that elongation is kind of like an energetic thing, not necessarily just the shape of the skull.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like even if you have a really big head, there's always going to be a quality that makes it look elongated in certain ways.
Exactly. Yeah, because there's like, for example, some Nijai that have like just structurally a little bit of a longer face, but still the way the head moves around quickly and the brightness of the eyes and things of that nature, it still actually is more compact energetically, even though like structurally it might not be. All right, that's you. There we go. That's classic right there. That's classic.
Yeah, Vaji Beth Van Doing, or I don't know how to pronounce that, but
It's not good to me.
but yeah. Yeah.
She jumps out as Jez Hunter right away. I mean, that's that classic Jez Hunter look.
Yeah, I agree.
She looks like she has game too.
Yeah, she's good energy.
And the eyes look pretty bright, like she has some good knee.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that means she's actually a good person or a good politician, but she's got game.
Yeah. Is Irving? I'm not sure. Is Irving in California, or is that?
It might be, but Irving's also sort of common sounding, so maybe it's a different Irving.
Oh yeah, it could be.
But it might be. Yeah, and she looks like, you know what I mean? His eyes, bam.
Yeah.
Very observant. All right. 18 is yours.
Vaji, Chris Van Hollen. He kind of looks like a butler. Picture on the left.
Yeah, well, as Naiji, I have to like quasi state past, the derogatory.
That is kind of like a surface, level, but I don't know.
No, but just I feel it too. I was feeling you. I was bonding with you on that. Is that I have to like use my fifth gear to look past the fact they're all wearing suits. You know what I mean? And then look at more than that. But they do the clean shaven, the perfectly coiffed hair, and the very professional suit.
Yep.
So I'm like, they're more than their suit. They're more than their haircut.
Yeah.
All right, that's me. Zenai Juan Vargas. Pretty classic. Wish we'd get a little better media, but not too bad.
The Jai seems really prominent. Like it stands out to me.
Yet even here in the right where he's articulating, you can see he's using a good amount of Jai, even though he's articulating.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's you.
Z9 Marvizi.
Very smiley.
Kind of like it's a lot of V and Jai.
Mm-hmm.
And I too. It's
yeah, on that, something about him he riffs me, because there actually are lots of Z9 here, and there's several of them are Z9 who are African or have other kinds of non-Caucasian ethnicities. So it's not that, I don't think. Something about his energy, I think is what you're talking about, his game. He's riffing me more of football players.
I got them. I was like, I kind of thought of like a V's eye like football player when looking at him. Kind of.
Yeah. And the Z9 football players can sometimes be hard to tell from the V's eye because they tend to have a lot of V. They tend to have very bright eyes, like he does.
Yeah.
All right, 4 more. Here we go.
I know politicians do like tons of reading, so it's kind of Vizy, and Bella.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me. I mean, if he wasn't a Vizy, it kind of reminds me of his eyes. Kind of like certain aspects of his face and his eyes remind me of Paul Ryan a little bit. Kind of drier, kind of.
Yeah, and also he has a slopedness. His eyes slope down here a bit in a kind of a noticeable way, and I think Ryan also has that.
Yeah, he does. He does.
It kind of makes their Vi seem more, I don't know, thoughtful or something. It's for some reason to me, him and Paul Ryan, their Vi seems a little softer than some of the others. Maybe it's something else, and I'm feeling that towards. You mean because usually when I feel that softness, it's because they have like a lot of knee. He looks like he has a decent amount of knee, but it's not like a lot of knee. But still, there's something about the shape of his eyes that's look a little softer to me.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'll have to get more data. Wow. All right, here we go.
Oh yeah, Nia Velasquez.
Did you get a mojo?
Oh yeah, Z9.
There we go.
Focused on pronouncing your name.
All right, 2 more. Here we go. IZ Peter J. Visklosky. In both of these, his Jai does not look like it's really aware of what it's doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's some politicians don't really try to like, give that very normal kind of smile. They'll just kind of give the kind of expression they feel like giving.
Yeah, and on that, the Vi Z seem to be the most prone to that. The Z9, most of them do more of an affable thing. The Vi Z, I'd say the majority, at least half or a little more, do it. But there's a good chunk of the Vi Z that do what you're talking about. They're like, this is just how I do it.
Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder, maybe is it because of they have Jai higher up, or is that like, I don't know.
That's a good question. Maybe
because it takes more space in the psyche, they're more likely to, I don't know.
No, that's a very good point. I was going a different direction, but I think your point might be very valid too. Yeah, because the Jai is very independent in its way. It's wild. It does what it wants to do. Feels what's going to feel. And it is the Vi Z do have a higher ranked Jai, so that makes a lot of sense. The angle I was going at was that the Vi Z, a lot of times the combination of Vi with the Z, as compared to Nai, which even though Nai have Z first, they're very bracing. The Nai makes for more of a dreaminess in how they speak.
Mm-hmm.
Vi Z are often praised in politics, business, mixed martial arts, all kinds of things for their plain spokenness. Like they get a lot of props for that. So maybe they kind of figure like, I don't need to like put on a smile because my thing is that I'm plain spoken. I'm just saying what I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And it kind of, they're treated as, more, I guess, more serious, I guess, in certain ways. So, giving like a flashy smile may not necessarily be.
Yeah, that's true. They do kind of go for a bit more of the grim gravitas thing. That's a good point. And also there is a tendency for the Vi Z to come from backgrounds where there's not as much use of that or a use of, say, schmoozing, because there are a lot of Vi G politicians start in lower politics and then move up to upper politics. And so they kind of start at beginning community building and then go to like bigger and bigger community building. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But with the Vi Z, for example, one thing you see a lot is they'll actually be lawyers who come in, or they'll be business owners who come in, or a big one is they will be administrators, like they work for NSA, There's a lot of them that had like intelligence background or some kind of work in those fields, and that's why they're in. So the fact, like I worked for the NSA, you kind of expect someone that's the reason why they're, being voted on. Maybe they should look a little more crusty or something. It makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because they're like coming from like a spy hunting background. They're not really. They didn't come from a community builder background. They came from a law administrative.
Yeah, more kind of like a serious kind of more strictly professional legal background, and businesses very professional and so forth, but less of a focus on on community building, as you mentioned.
All right, last one's yours.
Vaji and Wagner.
Bam, pretty classic. There you go, Vaji lady. All right, cool beans. You ran a little over, but it was fun. We did good stuff.
Yeah, it was a good hangout.
It was. All right. We can chat more next time. One thing I'll get your thoughts on, you can tell me on Sunday, but you can think of now. I'm curious what your thoughts are on how Trump is moving differently now that he's out of, the Republican race pretty much, and now he's angling for the primary, the main one.
Yeah, it's interesting. My impression is he's not really in general election mode yet, but he's sort of trying to talk to people. Like he talked to Paul Ryan today.
Exactly.
So he's sort of trying to get connected, and he's sort of trying to figure out what his strategy is going to be, is my impression.
Gotcha. Well, I look forward to more of your thoughts on that on Sunday. Do you have some time there
for sure. I'll definitely. There's some things I have to catch up on, but it should be really interesting.
Yeah, and the following weeks on the True Fire Journal, we'll be kind of covering how it's going to be shifting, because now the fields have narrowed, and now it's pretty much the.
They're pretty much moving into general election mode. I mean, Bernie Sanders is still he still has hope, but basically that's where we're at.
Indeed. All right. Have a wonderful evening. Good stuff.
All right. Thank you, Coach. It's been a great hangout. Hope you have a great night.
You too.